3 badges which are transferable. These are not
a last-minute dispute over an apparent typing error in the global climate deal in Paris was solved in a small room, and thanks to trust established during the talks. After 2 weeks of intense negotiations, the deal was almost derailed in the final hours when the more legally binding word "shall" appeared in one of the articles in the place of "should." The last-minute change in the text Article 4.4 of the COP21 agreement aimed at limiting global warming by capping CO2 emissions said that developed nations shall have economy-wide absolute emissions reduction targets instead of should, as written in previous drafts. Shall will have been unacceptable for the United States because that will make it a legal requirement needing ratification by the Senate, something considered pretty much impossible by its negotiators. Nicaragua and other emerging countries had tried to insist on shall to ensure that rich countries took the lead. Should is a much less onerous level of requirement.
The text is
very complicated and very long and so on. And in the last version of the text, the stenographers made a typing error. Instead of saying, as in the 2 previous versions, that parties should do this and that, shall was written, which does not involve the same legal consequences. In one case, you have an obligation to show results, in the other, an obligation to put in an effort. The Americans could not accept it because it will have forced them to seek ratification with the Congress. In an interview with French radio Europe 1, Mr. Fabio said South Africa, the leader of the G77 group of emerging countries, told his colleagues after the error that they wanted the more binding word kept in. The trust between him and the delegates saved the agreement.
Les dirigeantes de ce groupe, qui sont des Sud-Africaines, m'ont dit, écoutez,
the leaders of this group, G77, who are South Africans, told my colleagues that it was not possible to change shall for should, and they refused. So I had to come myself to a small room and I told them, they are amazing women. Look, it's not a change in substance. You can trust me. I guarantee that it is just a typing error. Let's not block this deal for all mankind because of this. Shortly after Mr. Fabius and the South African representative of the G77 came back in the conference room, global climate envoys agreed a landmark accord, setting the course for a historic transformation of the world's fossil fuel-driven economy within decades in a bid to arrest global warming. The Paris Agreement underwrites adequate support to developing nations and establishes a global goal to significantly strengthen adaptation to climate change through support and international cooperation.
This is a rare opportunity for Africa because of our relatively poorly developed infrastructure to seize the opportunity to now use new technology, new environmentally friendly and green technology in whatever infrastructure we are building. The meaning of this for Africa is that this is an opportunity now for us to change the way we do things, to go along using climate change as the pedestal for us to do things right, for us to do it the way it will help our vulnerable communities, it will help us to do better than what we're doing right now.
The already broad and ambitious effort of developing countries to build their own clean, climate-resilient futures will be supported by scale-up finance from developed countries and voluntary contributions from other countries. Governments decided that they will work to define a clear roadmap on ratcheting up climate finance to $100 billion by 2020, while also before 2025 setting a new goal on the provision of finance from the $100 billion floor.
We really did get a good signal in finance. First of all, the commitment to the $100 billion per annum all the way to by 2020 was seen now as the floor and not the ceiling. So everybody recognizes that that $20 billion is a commitment to the trillions that we need in terms of investments. It sends signals to financial markets. It sends signals to business to say that, look, guys, this is no longer going to be business as usual. You also have the SDGs that came in September, and you have a financing framework from Addis that all of this together really looks at sustainable development and says, okay, this is for real. So I guess that civil society are right to want to get the 101%, and that's what they should do. That's why they're there, holding our feet to the fire. And there are many things that perhaps we didn't get the ambition that we needed. But in terms of the finance, I think we went a long way in the right direction. I think the temperature figure was very good. 1.5 is a really good message. We were talking about well below 2 degrees. Now the scientists and everyone can, nitpick and pull it apart, and they will be right to say that it's not good enough. But it's a long way away from where we were just 2 weeks ago.
International cooperation on climate-safe technologies and building capacity in the developing world to address climate change are also significantly strengthened under the new agreement.